Discover the incredible life-changing moment when he revealed the hidden truth after her regret. In a humdrum small town, David, a 35-year-old mechanic, found himself trapped between the remnants of lost dreams and the weight of his divorce. Each day merged into the next, a relentless cycle of crankshafts and oil changes. Yet, among the rattling tools and the smell of grease, he poured his heart into every vehicle he fixed. Each bolt tightened, a silent testament to the resilience that defined him. The sound of engines revving echoed the pulse of his heart, steady, but overshadowed by what could have been. As autumn cast a glow across the Midwest, farmers' markets sprang with pumpkins and varying shades of burnt orange. In this very season, Emily, his high school sweetheart, returned from the city. Dressed impeccably, she exuded a blend of sophistication and success, each word dripping with polished confidence. Her arrival set the town buzzing, good folks whispering behind handshake greetings and coffee shop counters. David couldn't help but feel the sting of bittersweet pang as memories rushed back. They were young and in love once, but life had driven them apart. As he watched her navigate the familiarity of their hometown, trying to fit in with the memories wrapped deeply, it stirred something deep inside him. An ache for the path never taken. And as he noticed the warm looks she received, the flickering candles of nostalgia were lit. In their first conversation, a reunion at the old diner, it all began to spill out. Emily shared tales of her fast-paced life, describing towering skyscrapers and glamorous evenings out. But in her sparkling eyes, a flicker of emptiness shone through, unnoticed by all except David. She laughed, but the laughter had a hollow ring. Underneath the polished exterior, David saw the tangled mess of loneliness. He wanted to shout, to reveal the truth behind her success and his sorrow. But before he could voice it, an unexpected revelation crashed upon him. While chatting innocently with a neighbor, a careless comment about Emily slipped through, exposing layers of heartbreak buried beneath the glamorous lifestyle. She skipped town, leaving behind friendship and roots for a carousel he soon learned was ever so brittle. This was the real hidden truth that emerged from the shadows, shattering the illusion of triumph in an instant. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the heart of the community fair, lights twinkled like stars in the dusky sky, the scent of fried dough mingling with the laughter of kids. David could feel the electric energy, but beneath it surged the weight of revelation. The townsfolk gathered, celebrating tradition while he confronted Emily. His heart raced, a dance of pride and pain. "David, I made mistakes," Emily began, her voice trembling, the bravado fading like the evening light. The tension thickened as she admitted her loneliness amidst the city lights, feeling the pressure of expectations and loneliness flaring in her chest like wildfires in dry grass. As the words spilled between them, an emergency call echoed over the fairground speakers. A beloved community member had fallen ill. Panic set in, and the urgency snapped David away from thoughts of past hurts. Both friends and strangers rushed toward the crisis, the fair forgotten, united in a collective movement of support. With each step toward the chaos, David felt the stirrings of hope and uncertainty, all wrapped around the unshaped skeleton of emotions he thought he buried. Would he dare to open his heart again? Would Emily's vulnerability change everything? Only time would tell, as the community watched with bated breath, leaving both standing on the precipice of an uncharted future. David's heart raced as he pushed through the crowd, the voices of concern mingling with frantic whispers. Each step felt surreal, a whirlwind of emotions entwining him. He could barely focus on what lay ahead. The weight of Emily's words clung to him, even amid the rising anxiety. With each terrified face he passed, a knot tightened in his stomach. This was not just a fair, it was a community, a family, and they were all flickering like the fairy lights overhead. The crowd funneled into a small area beside the old carousel, where a man lay sprawled on the ground, his face pale against the vibrant grass. David pushed ahead, the clatter of the fair fading into the background. Emily was beside him, her presence providing a delicate comfort amidst the chaos. "Is he okay?" Emily asked, her voice breaking as someone knelt beside the fallen man, checking for a pulse. David recognized him, the local baker, Mr. Simmons, who always greeted him with a smile as he passed his shop. The sweet aroma of cinnamon rolls flashed in his mind, almost a guilty memory now. Suddenly, Emily's hand reached out, finding David's. It was a simple, instinctual gesture, but it jolted through him with warmth. He turned to her, his heart pounding, not just from fear for the man but for the revelation she spoke of earlier. Those confessions were raw and unfiltered, yet here they were, caught in a moment of true crisis. "Look, I'm not brave enough sometimes," she murmured, eyes glistening under the soft glow of the overhead lights. "And it's easier to cover it all up with success than to face the truth." David squeezed her hand, feeling an unspoken bond knitting them closer. It felt as if everything, every unshared word, and every unprocessed emotion was suddenly laid bare between them. He didn't know if it was the urgency of the moment or the quiet yearning inside him, but he was desperate to tell her the truth of the past, a truth heavy with regret but layered with understanding. As the paramedics arrived, the crowd shifted, creating an opening for the professionals. David's thoughts raced. He wanted to pull Emily aside and spill everything, the emotions they both tried to hide. But before he could orchestrate his thoughts, Emily turned to him, a look of urgency etched on her face. "David, if we had stayed together, do you think it would have changed anything?" The question hung in the air like the first drop of rain before a storm. It was a simple yet profound query, and David felt its weight settle deep within him. What would have happened? Could things have been different? Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of their potential together, not just a high school romance, but a partnership shared between two people navigating life's storms. "I think we would have faced our battles together," David replied, his voice steady even as emotions swelled inside him. "But that was a different time." Emily nodded, tears shimmering in her eyes, and for a moment, they both understood. It was not about blame. It was about the choices that shaped their paths, leading them to this fraught moment. As Mr. Simmons was lifted onto a stretcher, the crowd exhaled collectively, tension releasing. David and Emily stood side by side, their hands still clasped, hearts racing with the uncertain future looming ahead. But even as the sirens wailed into the night, David sensed that this shared experience would ripple through them both. Recovering from a crisis could forge connections deeper than any remembered promise. "Whatever happens next, I want you to know," he began, but the words slipped off his tongue unformed. "Tell me," she urged, leaning closer. And just like that, the night darkened, and the unfolding answers hung tantalizing in the air. In that moment between question and revelation, David felt the world tighten around him, brimming with possibilities. What truth would spill next? What choices lay in wait as they grappled with their present? Before he could respond, a loud cheer erupted from the fairgrounds, pulling their attention away. The community rejoiced at the sight of the beloved baker being wheeled out, alive. Suddenly, the noise didn't feel distant anymore. It wrapped around them, bursting with life, and hope began to flicker again between David and Emily. But would they each still choose to stand alongside each other when the revelry dimmed? And as it all settled around them, David wondered, would they dare to confront the truths buried deep down, or would life pull them apart once more? The night held that answer just out of reach, waiting to be discovered. David stared into the distance, the cheers echoing around them like a distant symphony. He felt the heat of Emily's hand in his, a grounding force amidst all the chaos. The crowd erupted into applause, a celebration of life and hope, but inside, David's heart was still heavy with unspoken words. Emily's smile flickered in the light of the nearby stalls, her joy mixing with something deeper in anticipation, a willingness to hear what he had to say. It felt like a moment suspended in time. He could sense her need for clarity, the same pull that brought him here amidst the revelry. Emily, he started, but the noise of the fair grew louder as people erupted in laughter around them. They were all celebrating, uniting over the almost tragic event that had just unfolded. Yet, in that merriment, David felt the urgency to be heard. To lay bare his heart and the secrets he had kept guarded for so long. As they stood there, shoulder to shoulder, watching the stretcher disappear into the distance, his mind flooded with memories, the bittersweet periods of their shared past, the dreams they once whispered to one another under the stars. He sensed regret creeping in, the tightening of the space between them filled with the fear of what might be lost again. Let us get away from the crowd for a moment, he urged, leading her a short distance behind the flickering lights. They found a quiet spot beneath a canopy of blooming trees, the chatter of the fair fading into a soft murmur. The world was transformed into a bubble just for them, the night air thick with tension and possibility. David, what is it? She looked at him, her eyes wide, searching for answers. He swallowed hard and took a deep breath, revealing a vulnerable side he'd kept hidden. I often think about us, about what we could be done differently, how we might be navigated everything if we hadn't let fear guide our choices. Emily's face fell slightly, and David rushed on. I've spent so much time regretting those years, afraid to approach you. I should have reached out. I should have fought harder rather than just letting you slip away. But just it, Emily's voice cracked. You had your battles too. I don't want to face blame. I want to share this burden. He saw the pain flash in her eyes and wanted desperately to comfort her, to reassure her that she wasn't alone in this. You were brave in ways I never was. You pushed ahead with your dreams while I hid. I thought I'd be clinging to dreams of forever, but ended up just drifting. As the moment expanded, he could see the flickering shadows of old memories dance between them, revealing the truths they had both been too afraid to voice. They both had struggled, both had retreated, and both had longed for something more, something real. David, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. All these years, I've missed you. If only I'd known it was okay to be vulnerable. If only we'd taken that leap. The honesty of her words, mingled with sadness, struck him. The realization washed over him like a warm breeze. This was not just about what they lost, but what they could still build together. I want to take that leap now, David admitted, stepping a little closer. The space between them felt charged, electric, as if the very air was urging them to close the gap. I want to see where this goes, to face the fears together instead of apart. His heart quickened as the hope shining in Emily's eyes matched the fierce longing in his own. But he also saw the flicker of doubt. It was a crossroads moment. They had a choice to make. Before the relief of their honesty could expand into warmth, a fireworks display lit up the night sky, scattering brilliance above them. It was beautiful and disorienting all at once. David and Emily both paused, captivated by the colors exploding overhead, yet neither of them moved away from the truth they had just uncovered, with the echoes of laughter and the bright lights swirling around them. The clarity of their feelings blared louder than any firework. As the last echo of the celebration faded into the air, David reached for Emily, ready to unearth the depths of what they could be. Yet, even in that moment of clarity, another thought crept in. Was this the right time for them to reclaim what they once had? Or would their past still haunt them when the lights dimmed again? Uncertainty loomed just beyond the edge of hope. Would they find the courage to embrace the truth under the starlit sky, or would old doubts pull them apart once more? As the last of the fireworks sputtered out, the vibrant trails of color fading into a starry night, David sensed a shift within himself. The fear that had wrapped around his heart for so long began to loosen its grip, replaced by an overwhelming urge to embrace this moment. They were standing on the edge of something profound, and as he looked into Emily's eyes, he could see hope mingled with fear. I know things won't be easy, he said finally, his voice steady but laced with tenderness. But if we don't confront our past, we'll never know what we could be had what we could have now. Emily nodded, her expression a blend of cautious optimism and uncertainty. What if it's too late? What if we've changed too much? The tremor in her voice pulled at him, but he also saw the determination in her gaze. She needed assurance, a promise that this leap would be worth the heartache and risks. "It's never too late for the heart to find its way back home," he replied, hoping his words would reach her. David took a step closer, feeling the warmth radiate off her skin. In that space, he noticed the small things, the way her hair danced in the soft breeze, the hint of a smile hidden behind uncertainty, and the way her heart seemed to beat in tune with his. "Do you believe we can overcome that fear?" she asked, her eyes searching his for an anchor. "After everything we've both been through?" "I have to believe that," he said, a quiet resolve settling over him. "I want to believe that." Just then, laughter erupted nearby as a group of fairgoers paraded by, the joyful atmosphere starkly contrasting the heaviness of their conversation. David wanted to laugh with them, to join in the warmth of the night, but he couldn't shake the weight of the past. He reached for her hand again, keeping his grip gentle yet firm, a silent promise that he was here with her now. But as he held her hand, the shadows of doubt began to creep back in. "What if the risks we take hurt us again?" He whispered, more to himself than to her, the memories of their painful separation flooding back like a tide. Emily pulled her hand away, suddenly distant. "That's the thing, isn't it? Love and vulnerability come with risks. But what if we miss the chance to try?" There was a flicker of urgency in her eyes, as if she was fighting an internal battle. "I don't want to regret not trying again," David said, desperation creeping into his voice. The weight of her hesitation fell heavy on his chest. His heart raced as he waited for her response, praying for a glimpse of the Emily he once knew, the spark that ignited their connection. They stood in silence, each pulse of hope intertwined with hesitation. Then, Emily looked up at him, her expression resolute, but a hint of sadness remained. "Yes," she finally said, her voice soft yet assertive. "I want to try. But can we meet halfway? I don't want to lose you again. I can't bear it." He swallowed hard, relief washing over him despite her words. "Then let us promise never to hide from each other, never to let fear win again." As she returned his grip, their fingers entwined, David felt a surge of determination sweep through him. This was not just a moment, it was a turning point. Together, they could face whatever lay ahead, but just as the warmth of their connection deepened, a street vendor nearby hollered out a call for one of the fair's games, drawing their attention back to the sounds of laughter and celebration. David glanced over, a thought flickering through his mind. "Maybe we should enjoy the fair before we dive deeper into this," he suggested, a hint of mischief in his voice. Emily hesitated, uncertainty flickering back into her eyes. "What if everything we're feeling disappears when the fair ends?" He smiled at her. "Then let us make the most of this night. Let us create one incredible memory together before the lights go out." As he led her into the crowd, everything around them pulsed with life. The scents of popcorn and candy coated the air, laughter boomed, and the world spun with vibrant energy. David felt a blend of joy and trepidation standing beside Emily, but beneath the cheerful facade rippled the uncertainty, the haunting thought that when night fell and the laughter quieted, they still needed to face the truths that lay beneath their newfound hope, and the ultimate question lingered in the back of his mind. Would this night mark a new beginning, or would they stumble back into the shadows that held them captive for so long? The fair's bright lights flickered overhead as David and Emily wove through the crowd, the world buzzing around them. Children squealed in delight, their laughter riding the gentle breeze like music, pulling them momentarily into the joyous atmosphere. David squeezed Emily's hand tightly, anchoring both of them to this moment, desperate to keep the connection alive. As they approached a stall filled with fluffy cotton candy, Emily narrowed her eyes playfully. "You still owe me a cone from last summer." David chuckled, the sound easing some of the tension lingering in the corners of their hearts. "How about I get you 2 cones this time? Just one for now. Let us see if you can even handle that." She grinned, her eyes sparkling as the vendor handed over a cloud of pink sweetness. As she took a bite, the sugary treat melted into her mouth, and he couldn't help but watch her with a mix of fondness and longing. Memories of their shared laughter flooded back, 1,000 moments condensed into this simple act. Yet, as they moved along, David felt the walls of doubt creeping back. Emily's laughter was infectious, but deep inside, he sensed the weight of the unanswered questions pushing against his resolve. "You know, this is your favorite," he said, trying to keep the conversation light while knowing the storm brewing beneath the surface. "I remember," she replied, her smile softening. "It's funny how certain things stick with you. Like us." The words slipped out before he could hold them back. His heart raced as he watched her expression change, uncertainty creeping back into her eyes. "Exactly." Her gaze drifted, momentarily lost in thought. "And what about all the things that went wrong? Can those stick too?" David swallowed, feeling the gravity of her words. "Yes, they can. But it's up to us to decide which memories carry more weight," he said, trying to sound confident. "That's easier said than done." The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken fears. They rounded a corner toward the Ferris wheel, its lights twinkling as brightly as the stars overhead. David suggested, "How about we go up there? It might help clear our heads." Emily hesitated. "What if being up high just reminds us of how far we still have to climb? Or it could show us the beauty of the view ahead," he countered, determined to keep them moving forward. "What is the worst that could happen?" "I could fall," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "But I'll be right there with you." He squeezed her hand again, injecting all the assurance he could muster into that simple gesture. At that, Emily took a deep breath and nodded. "All right, let us do it." As they climbed into the Ferris wheel car, anticipation mixed with trepidation. With every rise, the colorful lights of the fair receded, the ground below swirling like a distant memory. The gentle creaking of the wheel added to the tension thickening in the air. As they reached the top, their car paused, hanging in anticipation, just for a moment. David turned to Emily, his heart pounding. The world below shimmered like a postcard. "Look," he said, motioning toward the panoramic view before them. "We can see everything from up here." And it was beautiful. But as he turned back toward her, the weight of their past seemed to eclipse the beauty surrounding them. "Emily, there's something I need to tell you." She looked at him, trouble dancing in her eyes, a hint of apprehension. "What is it?" He could feel the air transform, pressing tight against his chest. This was it. The moment that could shift everything. "It's about what happened, about why I left." The words hung in the air, thick with the promise of revelations. Emily's expression shifted, her vulnerability laid bare. "David, please don't sugarcoat it." He took a deep breath, the lights spinning around them like the whirlwind of feelings in his chest. "I was afraid. Afraid of losing you. But now I understand that my silence hurt you more than my mistakes ever could." Just then, the ride jerked slightly, and in that moment, a wave of adrenaline surged through them both. But it wasn't just fear, it was the thrill of finally confronting the ghosts they'd been running from. Emily's eyes widened, locked on his. "What do you mean? What was it, David?" The question hung in the air like a thundercloud, heavy and electric, holding them captive against the vast night. In that pregnant silence, David felt time stretch infinitely. This was it, the chance to finally break the bonds holding them back, a moment that could either tear them apart or, just maybe, stitch them back together. And as the wind whipped around them, David knew the truth would change everything. Would they rise to face it, or would they fall into the shadows again? David's heart raced as he sought the right words, his mind wrapping around the chaos of memories that made him who he was. The cool breeze whispered around them, and all he could think was how many times he had envisioned telling Emily the truth. "I never meant to walk away, Em. It was the fear that gripped me. I thought leaving would protect you from the chaos in my head," he confessed. Her expression deepened with concern and curiosity. "Protect me from what? What were you afraid of?" The tremor in her voice matched the way her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. David swallowed hard, wrestling with the weight of his feelings. "You have this incredible light, and I didn't want to dim it. When I started to see how lost I was, how I was dragging you into my darkness, I just thought it was easier to disappear." The honesty poured out, raw and vulnerable, exposing scars he had tried to hide. Emily's brow furrowed as she processed his confession. But in leaving, you hurt me more. I thought I wasn't enough. That you didn't love me anymore. Her voice trembled, a crack running through her brave facade. You just left, and I had to piece everything back together without you. I never wanted to lose you, he said urgently, reaching out to take her trembling hand. I just thought I was saving you from my mistakes. The guilt was unbearable, and I thought maybe I could keep you safe by stepping away. The tension in the air shifted, uncertainty mingling with hope, igniting sparks between them. David, I've felt all those lost moments, she murmured, but to come back here, now it's like standing on a tightrope, and I can't see the other side. He squeezed her hand tighter, feeling the strength of his conviction surge within him. What if we took a step together? That we can figure it out as we go along? No more hiding. A flicker of light crossed Emily's eyes, battling against the shadows of doubt. But I still don't know if I can trust you not completely. David's heart sank, but he refused to let despair take hold. Trust takes time. I'm willing to rebuild that. Just don't shut me out. Let me show you I can change. In the quiet that followed, they both took in the dazzling view stretching out across the fairground, the vastness of the world almost seeming to reflect their daunting journey ahead. Above, stars twinkled like glimmers of hope in an ink-black sky. Just then, a sudden rush of laughter erupted from a group of people below, yanking them back to the moment with a jolt. The juxtaposition felt stark, everyone else living in joy while they clung to their heavy burden. What if we took a leap together? Emily's voice was softer now, but still cautious. What if we let go of the past for just one night? His heart lit up at the thought. Maybe we can start redefining everything. Just for tonight, let us bask in the moment. Let us leave the shadows behind, if even for a while. Emily's face softened slightly, her guard lowering just a bit. Okay, she whispered. No past. Just tonight. As the ride began its descent, they held on and, for the first time, Emily smiled wide, the vivid lights shimmering around them igniting something deep within, an inkling of hope, a tentative step towards healing. But just as they reached the ground, and reality that awaited them loomed, David could see a flicker of uncertainty tugging at Emily's eyes again. David, what happens after tonight? The question lingered between them like a delicate bridge over the abyss of their past, and he knew they were at a crossroads. Would they choose to cross it together, or would fear push them apart once more? The weight of their future hung in the balance, tantalizing and fragile. David felt the world around him blur as he struggled to gather his thoughts. Emily's question echoed in his mind, a haunting melody that refused to fade. The breath of hope he had felt moments ago suddenly felt heavy, like a weight pressing down on his chest. As they stepped off the ride, the kaleidoscope of colors from the fairground lights flickered across their faces, but the basking warmth was overshadowed by uncertainty. What happens after tonight? He whispered, uncertainty lacing his words. Emily's gaze drifted to the ground, her expression turning somber. I don't know, David. I really don't. We kissed the past goodbye for one night, but what if morning brings it all back? He wanted to reassure her, to promise that everything would work out, but the truth stung like a bitter lemon, and he could feel it coiling inside him, a truth he had hidden away for too long. It might come back. But maybe we can face it together, he suggested, a tremor in his voice. I want to believe that, she replied slowly, but it's not just about forgetting, it's about trust. He nodded, biting the inside of his cheek. You're right. It's just, I'm terrified of losing you again. I don't want to rush this, I want to do it right. Emily's smile flickered, unsure, and he felt like a fool for trying to sound wise. He was standing on a cliff's edge, trying to convince her to jump with him, but all he felt was the tremor of doubt. We can take it slow, Emily suggested, lifting her chin defiantly, but I can't pretend there aren't still things we need to face. If we're going to try again, we need honesty. His heart raced again, but this time it was from the daunting prospect of peeling back layers he had buried deep. Okay, he breathed. What do you need to know? Emily took a step closer, her eyes locking onto his. Why did you really leave? I need to understand what was going through your head. You can't protect me from everything. Her words struck deep. It was the raw honesty he'd been avoiding. I left because I was scared, he confessed. Scared of ruining your life, scared of myself. But running away, it hurt you more, didn't it? Yes, she replied, tears sparkling at the corners of her eyes. But I don't want to carry that hurt anymore. I want to know the real you, David. All of you. You can't just show me the good parts. The air grew thick between them, and for a moment, the noise of the fairground faded away. It was just David and Emily, ghosts of their past swirling around them, desperately wanting to be seen. I'll show you, he said, promising himself as much as her. Not just the light, but the darkness too. I'll take down the walls I built. Emily's face softened, and despite the uncertainty, he could sense a flicker of hope igniting in her. Then let us start fresh. But we have to communicate. No more bottling things up. He agreed, feeling a rush of gratitude. They were choosing to walk hand in hand into this scary, unknown territory. This was their chance. Just as they began to move toward a quieter area of the fairground, David saw a familiar figure in the crowd, a man he hadn't seen in years, someone who knew them both well. Apprehension gripped him, his heart sinking. Emily, he said, his voice shaking slightly, do you see that guy over there? He asked the reason I left. The moment hung in the air like a tightrope, and David felt the ground shift beneath him. Would the shadow of his past pull them apart, or would they face it together? David's gaze was locked on the man, a specter of his past that he wished could simply dissolve into the fairground lights. The laughter and music swirled around them, but all he could hear was the drum of his own heartbeat, pounding louder with every passing second. He forced himself to breathe, to lean into the moment. Who is he? Emily asked, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. She turned to look at David, her eyes searching his for clarity. Mark, David said, the name tasting bitter. We grew up together, best friends. But when I started dating you, things changed. He stood there, wrestling with how much to reveal, the truth threatening to spill out like secrets long buried. And he asked the reason you left? Emily didn't look away. Her gaze intensified, willing him to go deeper. David felt the pull towards the truth, a tidal wave crashing over him. After we broke up, I found out he started seeing you too. I thought I couldn't handle it. Her expression shifted, confusion mixing with understanding. You thought I would choose him over you? I wanted to think better of you. I thought you deserved someone stable, someone who wouldn't bring chaos into your life. The words poured out, raw and agonizing, each syllable a stab of guilt. Emily blinked, processing the revelation. But that's not fair to me. I never wanted him. I wanted you. The silence between them thickened like fog. David sensed her disappointment, but also a glimmer of relief. They had stepped into the truth, a light breaking through the clouds. Why didn't you ever tell me? She asked, a hint of frustration creeping into her voice. I thought if I left, it would hurt less, he confessed. I was so scared of feeling anything. Emily took a deep breath in, her features softening. David, running away didn't protect me. It just left me with questions and heartbreak. Suddenly, Mark took a step closer, his presence looming like an unwelcome shadow. David felt a rush of adrenaline, his instincts kicking in. Let us go, he murmured to Emily, grabbing her hand. They navigated through the crowd, the chaos swirling around them, but David felt anchored by Emily's touch. I need you to know I would never choose someone else over you, he said, his heart pounding not from fear, but with a newfound resolve. She squeezed his hand tighter, her eyes bright with a fierce determination. And I need to learn to trust again, David. Not only in you, but in us. They walked past Mark without looking back. David felt the weight of his past receding like a receding tide, lifting him closer to the surface of who he was meant to be. Let us not let him ruin this, he urged, vision narrowing to where they were headed, not where they had been. Agreed, Emily said, her voice steady. But there's a part of me that still needs to hear you say it to really understand how you felt. David stopped mid-step, the moment pressing around them tightly. I felt lost without you, and I think I was always running. But now, I want to stand still with you, to face it all together. She smiled, yet a flicker of concern danced in her expression. What if we face obstacles worse than him? In his gut, David knew the answer. Then we keep facing them. Together, no matter what. Just as they turned to find a quiet spot away from prying eyes, Mark called out after them. David, wait. The world seemed to freeze as David turned, jaw clenched. Mark's face was taut, but there was something he had not expected to see: defiance. What could he possibly want now? David whispered, dread creeping back. But as Emily's grip tightened on his hand, he felt her courage bolstering his own. Whatever it is, we'll face it. Together, she affirmed, and in that moment, David realized they were about to dive into the heart of their storm, where the real test of truth would reveal whether their hope was strong enough to withstand the winds of their past. David turned slowly to face Mark, heart pounding in his chest. The music around them faded into a murmur, and the laughter of fairgoers seemed distant. He could feel Emily at his side, her presence a buoy in the storm, urging him on. David, you can't just walk away. Mark's voice was sharp, insistent. David's stomach twisted at the certainty that Mark was about to unleash a well of hurt buried deep. What do you want? David demanded, his tone firm, but he felt the tremor in his own voice. Mark stepped forward, eyes boring into David with an intensity that made David's skin crawl. I want to talk. What we had, it didn't end well, but I'm not the enemy here. You need to hear me out. Emily took a step closer to David, a protective instinct kicking in. You think you deserve a say after everything? Mark glanced at her, then back to David. I didn't teach you any of this. Maybe I was wrong to get involved the way I did, but I thought we were all moving on. I thought you'd be happy. David's heart sank. Happy? With you? You knew how I felt about her. You knew what you were doing. I didn't know how much she meant to you, Mark started, but David cut him off, anger flaring. Stop. You took something from me, something precious. The words crackled in the air like thunder. He felt a surge of heat, a mix of anger and pain. Mark's expression shifted, hardening. And you think you're so innocent? You left without a word, David. You ran from us both, from everything. A flicker of regret pierced through Mark's defiance. I was young and stupid. I believed I'd do better, be better. Believed you'd be better? David shot back, the bitterness pouring out. You took advantage of my absence and my trust. You think this is just about you? Emily looked up at David with wide eyes, searching for the right words, but he didn't want to let go of the anger it felt empowering. Maybe I did some things I regret, Mark continued, his voice calmer now. But I would never intentionally hurt you. I can't change the past, but I'm here for the present. You two deserve that chance to figure it out. Figure what out? David's voice rose, but inside, a small part of him wondered if Mark was trying to say something more. Could there be a sliver of truth hidden in the rubble? Look, I'm not asking for forgiveness, Mark said, desperation painted on his face. But if you let your past dictate your future, you'll never be free. You hold the key to what happens next. I just don't want to see you waste it. The air was thick with tension. Mark took a step back, his shoulders slumping as if he released a burden. Maybe there was more to say, a simpler thread connecting them all. David felt Emily's hand squeeze his tighter, grounding him amid the chaos within. She looked at him, searching his eyes for answers. The question in her gaze echoed louder than the music around them. Could they truly move on? What do you think? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the fairground's noise, yet it reverberated within him. Can we face this together and still build something new? David swallowed hard, wrestling with his thoughts. Behind Mark's defiance lay a tangled web of shared history and pain, while in front of him stood the possibility of a future one he desperately wanted with Emily. But the gaping mountain of disbelief between them still loomed large. I need to think, he began, uncertainty creeping into his tone as he stepped back, away from both Mark and the truth he wasn't ready to embrace. Emily's grip faltered, just a moment, but it shifted everything within him. Then think, Mark replied, his words softer now. But don't let fear drive your decisions. Jessica turned to David, breath caught in her throat, emotions swirling like the carnival lights around them. He could feel the weight of her hope and his own hesitation. Just then, a sudden gust of wind swept through, carrying the laughter and faded music far off, as if their fate hung in the balance. What are we running from? David asked, turning once again to Mark, the question bubbling to the surface. And as the answer danced at The edges of the night. He knew the next words spoken could shatter everything or bind them together in ways none of them anticipated. David stood there, feeling the electric charge of uncertainty zigzag between them like the lights of the carnival. Mark's words hung heavy in the air, echoing off the vibrant stalls and distant laughter. The tension felt tangible, the weight of history anchoring him down even as the spark of something new began to ignite. "David," Emily said softly, breaking through the haze of his thoughts. "What do we want? What do you really want?" Her eyes searched his, urging him to dig deeper beyond the chaos swirling around them. The intensity in her gaze made his heart flutter. He felt as if they stood on the edge of a precipice, the wind swirling around them, ready to either plunge them into darkness or lift them toward the light. "I want to move forward," he finally responded, the words spilling out. "I want to face this together, but I need to know we can truly leave the past behind." His mouth felt dry, but the truth tasted sweeter than fear. Emily nodded, her resolve evident in the way she held his gaze, inviting him to keep going. "Mark, it's true you and I have history, and yes, it's complicated," he began, steadiness creeping back into his voice. "But I see now that what happened wasn't just because of you, it was about all of us. I left, I ran away, and that left room for you to step in." Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of regret crossing his face. The anger was giving way to something more genuine. "I never meant to take your place," he admitted quietly. "I guess I thought I was helping you both move on." David knew the past could bruise and batter, but it didn't have to define the future. "We've all made choices we regret," David continued, "but the real question is, can we seek to understand, rather than just blame?" The air felt charged with the weight of unspoken fears, yet a warmth began to spread through David's chest and understanding was on the horizon. He turned to Emily, who closely watched the exchange. "What I want, is to know that we can build something remarkable amidst this mess. No more running. No more hiding." "Then let us define what matters," she chimed in, finally allowing a small, brave smile. "Let us tear down these barriers and face them together." Mark looked between them, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "You two have something different. Maybe it's worth fighting for." It was a simple acknowledgement, yet it felt monumental, a breaking of chains that had bound them all for so long. Taking a deep breath, David felt a surge of hope rise within him. "I think our connection is stronger than all of this. It doesn't matter what brought us here. What matters is where we go from here." As they stood in that space, the festive chaos of the fair began to melt away. Underneath the canopy of stars and whispers of the night, David felt like he was shedding heavy armor, the fears and doubts falling from him like autumn leaves. And then, as if the universe responded to his resolve, the laughter of a child broke through the tension. He turned to see a little girl, her face lit with joy as she clutched a bright red balloon. It reminded him of innocence and new beginnings, the promise of what could blossom amidst old pains. "Can we just forget the past for a moment?" Emily asked softly, her fingers wrapping around his with warmth. "Just for tonight," he said, heart swelling at the brightness in her eyes. "Let us embrace our connection. Let hope lead us." Hand in hand, they turned away from Mark, toward the vibrant lights and laughter that filled the fairground once more. A rush of freedom coursed through them, sweeping away the shadows. They could carve out their own path, and each step forward felt lighter, brighter. With each echo of laughter and each pulse of vibrant color, they began to lose themselves in the moment. And as David pulled Emily closer, they both felt it, that raw, electric energy of hope, love, and potential igniting the night. The future, with its chaotic promise, beckoned them forward. "Let us go make some memories," he whispered, and as they moved toward the crush of laughter and joy, he finally felt alive, ready to embrace whatever came next, stronger together than ever. This was their time. Now, one last call for you. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories filled with transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these moments of inspiration reach more hearts. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. I want to know how it touched you, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformative journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share. It's a true fan's privilege to support this channel.